I'm Karen Fox. I'm the Director of Hospitality for ADP Major Accounts. ADP works very closely with the Alliance, as well as CohnReznick, and we couldn't think of a better place to offer our support. I'm here to introduce the panel of Trends in Operational Technology, which technology platforms are leading hospitality companies using to improve operating efficiencies. What do they do? How are they working? How should they be improved? And what to expect from technology in the future? ADP has worked diligently in recent years overhauling our technology, service structure, and offering to work hand in hand with the industry. So if you haven't seen us in a while, we welcome you to take a look. They only offered me 30 seconds to talk about ADP. So I have a small list of things to go through, which I am happy to talk to you about at the table upstairs. This panel is being moderated by Cindy McLaughlin of CohnReznick, and here you go. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, so to really kick this off, I guess we've already established, which everybody really knows, is no other time than like now, the industry is facing the biggest challenges, the most headwinds on every direction possible. So if technology was ever going to play a part to actually help with the efficiencies and effectiveness of what is being done in the restaurant space, now is the time. So this panel is going to talk more to what technologies are out there that are really driving the bottom line, what efficiencies are being made of these technologies and how they're used to really make that difference in driving earnings. So we have a wonderful panel today, and to really set the stage, I'd like to turn it over to each of them to introduce themselves. Get a little background on your restaurant, your company, location, size, geographies.
Sure. Hi, my name is Adam Rosenbaum. I'm the CEO of the Meatball Shop. Hi, Jay. We just opened our 7th location in March. We're just located in New York City right now, 6 locations in New York City and 1 in Williamsburg.
I'm John Kendrick. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Nobu Group. We have 38 restaurants around the world. We have 13 here in the U.S. And we also are getting into the hotel business, but I won't talk about that one.
We met before. I'm Luke Fryer, the founder of Harry. We're a workforce operating system built solely for hospitality. Many of you have seen us evolve from our launch in 2013, from a talent marketplace to today where we're a full end-to-end talent technology platform. We operate in the US, predominantly in New York and the major East Coast cities. We also launched in London a year ago and have just brought on our first few clients in UAE. We are around 100 employees now, and I'm quite proud to say that we have about 15 technical employees for each one of our salespeople, which is the inverted ratio of many companies in the software world, especially let's call it the hospitality software world. So,
Very good. My name is Brett Simpson. I'm the managing partner at a sole operation, one restaurant here in New York City called Gotham Bar and Grill. We've been around for 33 years, but I guess considering who I'm sitting with, I would be the little guy on the block.
Hi, my name is Morgan Harris. First of all, let me say how cool I flew in from California last night, and coming in and seeing the lights at Ground Zero was touching. It was awesome. It was a cool moment yesterday, and just this is the best town in the world, especially for my name, like I said, my name is Morgan Harris. I'm one of the co-founders of Restaurant 365. My background is in accounting. I'm a CPA. Worked for Pricewaterhouse out of school. I was the world's worst auditor ever, and left there. Started implementing Great Plains software for a while. Owned my own Great Plains bar business for 10 years, and that experience prepped us for one day a restaurant CFO walked into our office and was using QuickBooks and wanted to buy Great Plains from us, and It's a cool, long story, but that was back in 2010, and now we built Restaurant 365. It was intended to be the world's first cloud-based true ERP platform for multi-unit restaurants. So it's accounting, it had operations, it integrates with your point of sale, your vendor, your payroll provider, your bank, fixed assets, budgeting, scheduling, commissary, the whole thing all in one. So that's what Restaurant 365 is. We have just north of 400 clients now. It's about 4,000 locations nationwide, 40 different point of sale providers that we integrate with. And yeah, honored to be here today, and hopefully the comments we make are helpful to you guys.
Wonderful, great, thank you. Okay, so first I want to start with the operators. Let's start, Brett, with you first.
Okay.
And all of you, same question. You have all this technology. So let's start with, what is the number one piece that you found has made the most impact from an efficiency standpoint?
I think the proliferation of third-party reporting systems has been the most advancing for creating efficiencies. For me to be able to know on a daily, sometimes hourly basis, what's happening operationally, whether it be cover counts or labor costs, it allows us to make informed decisions, whereas, say 10 years ago, we were really operating in a lot of darkness.
Okay. And John, how about you?
Scheduling software. We've been able to cut our overtime and cut the number of people in strategic areas at certain times. We've started to layer in start times, and all of that reduces our labor cost, which keeps rising.
Yes, it does. It doesn't seem to ever go down.
It doesn't seem to
It
go
doesn't
down.
ever seem to go
No.
down. Okay, and Adam, how about you?
Yeah, no different, same to echo my peers, but, I think it was said in an earlier panel, I think the biggest, Avero's probably been the biggest impact over the last 15 years or so in a manner of which to compile all the POS data into a, consolidated reporting that can help us manage the business better in real time.
Right. Okay. So, knowing what, as an operator, that's what you're seeing now, you guys have a really interesting vantage point, because not only do you know your business, you have hundreds of clients and restaurants that you get to see from a different vantage point. So knowing that, what are some of the most specific things that you think is the number one driver that you're seeing in technology? So Luke, let's start with you.
I think the very clear trend is that people want less point solutions, less individual pieces of software. We see many many restaurant companies using 10 different software platforms and only getting a small amount of utility from each. Right? So it's how do we bring those platforms together, reduce what we call sort of fragmentation of workflows, so people having to log into different platforms and learn many different pieces of software, and how do we actually leverage data across different operational workflows rather than having a siloed data structure that you have when you have too many different pieces of software. So everything in one place. I think the next major trend is software needs to speak to the user, and this industry is very demanding from a use case. If it's not mobile, if it can't be done on the go, it's probably not going to get done. And you can't try and sell this industry corporate-minded software. It has to be bottom up with a real kind of consumer feel. If it doesn't feel like the kind of app or the kind of tool that our employees would want to use in their day-to-day personal lives, they're probably not going to embrace it the way we want them to. So it's the pace of change is great, and there's a lot of exciting technologies being launched, but those key trends that bring things together, easy to use, built for the industry, by the industry a lot of the time, we see them.
So the key of that it's got to be user-friendly, because you have to train everybody at the restaurant level to use these things from really be used the right way. So user-friendly is.
I think user-friendly is very important, but it's got to be device-friendly as well. So just having, if it's not accessible in a way that employees are used to. They're not going to engage with it. As we roll out in the city, we find that actually having everything on an app doesn't necessarily solve a lot of the communication and, let's call it, employee buying problems that we're looking to solve. There's a good portion of especially our back of house employees, and we think that number's about 20%, who simply refuse to engage with the business through an app on their own device. So one of the things we've worked hard on is we have a new facial recognition app on an iPad, which is the restaurant's own iPad, and will sit on a wall. And at the point of clock-in, because it's an iPad, we can deliver all kinds of communication in multiple languages to employees who may not otherwise want to receive those communications digitally. So we have that guaranteed window of communication that allows us to put both operational communication and compliance-based communication at a single point. So they're the kind of challenges we've seen.
Right, okay, and Morgan, how about you?
Definitely fewer systems for sure. Most of the people that come to us are growing restaurant businesses, people adding new locations or have goals to, and they need to scale. They don't want to keep adding more administrative costs to their business as they keep adding new locations. So that's, when you count up all of the different little silos of software that they use, plus all the Excel spreadsheets, plus all the interns and like temporary people that they use to reconcile stuff and repeat stuff, it's just a rat's nest by the time they come to us. And so it's fun to go in there and try to like help them eliminate all these components and put them on and just consolidate this all in one platform, which I learned today, blockchain is the new term I'm going to use for the way I describe the Babs, dude, TM Babs. Blockchain, so because when you can consolidate, it is when somebody does a paid out, or when someone does a store transfer, or when someone does a request a credit memo, or enters an invoice, or these things happen in the store, because it's all in one, that is accounting's data. I don't have to wait for it to go over to here. When they make a change, it is over here. And when accounting makes a change, it is the same application the managers are using. It's blockchain. It's happening the same second. It's not like it has to become something else. It's just instantly, everyone's looking at the same piece of information. That just can blow people's minds when they're at. Sometimes people will ask us, well, I have a 10-day close, 10-day close period after the end of the month. It's kind of like, who even cares about a 10-day close when your managers have the information at the end of every day? So the accountants, or adjusting entries or whatever, but it's not, if you ask the operator, why do they really care? Because they want the managers to know what the levers are, how are they financially performing. That's driving the revenue to the bottom line. So, in our software, you've got 400 customers, and we can run reports. We can know with a click, like who's clicking on what reports are being run. And what I think people use is different than what actually people use. So let's just use the data of what actually people are running. We have 250 reports in our software. The one report that is run more often, and it's twice as often as any other of these 250 reports that are run, is the prime cost report, which is pretty sweet. More people are looking at their prime cost report than checks are being cut from the accounting software. How cool is that? Managers are becoming more savvy with the levers in their business that drive profitability, and that's where you want. Those guys hold the profitability more than anybody else. Guys and gals, the managers of the stores, they make your restaurants profitable or not. And so I guess the final comment I'll make on this is that what's the biggest change? We have a customer, 18-unit group in Southern California, and they said, Morgan, it's just amazing. When we come to our weekly manager meeting, there's no more discussion about managers saying, this is my number I have, and the controller says, this is the number that I have. Why are these different numbers? Everyone comes to the meeting and they're all on the same, everyone's had the same set of numbers the whole time. In addition to that, each manager knows already in advance the performance of all the other stores. Because he can see when he pulls up the report exactly how he's performing already. And so he knows it. So that whole, they told us that the conversation of those weekly manager meetings completely changed. It just makes it much more powerful. So some of the things that we would see.
So I guess kind of taking from that point, you know, Adam, I'll start with you. Now that you have all this information and people are getting it real time, how is it that you work with your managers, whether it's the manager meetings, or get them to buy into this so that they're operating and using this effectively, like immediately at the store level?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges with all the technology, and you know, Luke and I actually had a conversation about this the other day. The hardest part of getting a successful technology platform to work is to get buy-in from the people that are actually using it. So all of us in a more senior leadership role that are not interacting with the front of house or back of house staff every day, those that are not interacting with the guests every day, we can say what reports look nice and what we'd like to see, and we have a different version of what that report might look like. And so really understanding what it is that the unit level management is wanting to see and what's going to have the biggest impact on them, having the ability to pull the different levers to drive increased profitability. So it's really about getting their buy-in, and you know, their frustrations lie with technology's changing so fast, as everyone knows, and it's how often is appropriate to make a switch to a new technology, or this, you know, I get 10 to 20 phone calls, emails a week of a new technology that's coming out that does this, that does that, but you know, and it may be better than the current system that we're using right now, but to have that constant instability among the management team, that whose core focus is to take care of the guests and the guest experience, to constantly throw in their face new technology that they need to learn and process is the hardest part.
Right.
So finding that balance is where I think is success.
John, I guess thinking about it just like a little differently, with respect to your units, you're not only domestic, you have international, you have
Right.
licenses. So how do you deal with all the magnitude, and how do you incorporate the technology into monitor what's going on?
Other than the U.S. and Japan and England, the rest of our units, or the rest of our restaurants are licensed. And most of the licensing issues are taken care of in the contract stage. So there's, from a management point of view, from a quality point of view, we have people, including Nobu, who travel to all of these locations at least once, but normally 2 or 3 times a year. He'll travel 10.5 months out of the year, and he is reviewing the quality and the service level of all these different locations. You know, as far as our data, we do look at, you know, our sales trends, and that's really where we're looking for something that may go down or something may go up, and we want to know why. Typically, it'll go down, and you know, we'll look at that. But that's how our licensing works. We don't do internal auditing now where we verify the sales numbers, not yet. We're probably big enough at this point to where we should. And I've raised the subject, and we'll just see.
Okay. So Brett, thinking again of all this technology, and there's so much to be used, I mean, how do you think that, what percentage of the technology you have is being used at full capacity? There's probably all these features and all these things of various
What percentage?
technology.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think to Adam's point earlier, that the buy-in from the staff is an incredibly important thing. And having a constant disruption, even, you know, even proposing changing the system becomes chaotic. Because a system is a system, and it's there because it works and it helps you get things done. And ultimately, your managers are there to get things done for the guest and, you know, for the guest. So I think that you know, that we're sort of in middling phase of technology in restaurants. I mean, there's been some advancements, but and we're bombarded with various things that are going to make our lives easier, whether it's an iPad wine list or you know, because we have an inventory system, we have a POS system, we have a reporting system, we have a reservation system. And you know, again, this is going back to the silos of data, and it would be welcome if these systems would talk to each other in a much more effective manner. And I do think that that's in the pipeline, and people like Restaurant 365 and even Harry to some degree are helping operators on a daily basis. So I think HR is a major problem for even one unit location.
All right.
Can I make a comment about
Yeah.
user adoption and people learning and getting the most out of the software is a major challenge for us. No matter how cool of a feature we make, it's just hard to get people. They're more concerned about the guest that they're standing for, and rightfully so. You know, so we ended up. It was a major focus for us this last 2 quarters ago. There's software out there called Learning Management Software, LMS software. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but we ended up building our own LMS software and embedding it inside of our tool. And inside, we have to make videos that it's like an Instagram video. You have to make it super short and consumable, and a very short quiz, and hold them accountable to watching it, but make it in a way that somebody can quickly learn the concept and to absorb it and to learn it. And then it's my hope by putting quizzes and things in there that are fun and a little bit cheesy, but it is a way to ensure that progress is being made. And so that's just something we've done. I mean, we do anything we can to get these people trained, right? Because then they're just better. They get more out of the software, then they get more value from it, and the business does better, and they talk about it more. So I mean, it's just constant battle that we're facing. Some of the things that we're trying to do that improve it. So.
I think a lot of the time we see that if ownership can tell the story behind the technology journey that the company's embarking on and why they're doing it. You know, look, our frontline managers are the silver bullet to profitability, right? It's if they're not empowered and they're not given the resources and systems to face guests and train employees and work on all the core competencies of great service, our businesses aren't going to grow. If you can tell a story to your management team, say we're putting new technology in because we figured out you spend 20% of your time, 25% of your time just hiring. We've seen that 25% of restaurant manager time is spent doing something related to hiring, and we're going to try and reduce that 80%. That starts to get their attention. They realise that decisions are being made to streamline their core day-to-day workflow. They're scheduling in one place, they're managing time and attendance and payroll. They spend half their time in an office. If we can show them that technology is being delivered to bring everything together, reduce the duplication of their workflow, that's when the buy-in occurs. That's when they start to get really excited. Following on from that, it's you know, when you want to implement a new system in a multi-unit business, you have to have the evangelical alpha, as we call it. You need to find someone who's ready to embrace the change. You've got to work closely with the vendor and with that person, get them to love it, make sure they're not the quiet mouse around the management, the weekly management meeting. And if you don't have that buy-in from day one, the project is very, very challenging. But it's very hard to push back against someone who has, you know, you're within a multi-unit group. Here's someone who's got the same challenges, potentially the same operating model as you. They've embraced technology, succeeded. You're going to follow. So.
Every company needs a Gary Levy.
Yeah. So, Adam, one of the unique things about the Meatball Shop is you do have a pretty significant amount of business that is delivery.
Yes.
So that is sort of its own other beast, right? Yeah. So give us just a highlight, I guess, from your perspective when you sort of see this is such a great thing, yet what does that do to the back of the house?
The delivery is, I think from my peers up here on the panel, I probably do the most delivery.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's becoming quite entertaining and challenging at the same time, right? There's multiple platforms, Caviar, DoorDash, Seamless, Grubhub, Postmates, I can name a lot more. And now, my takeout at the restaurant is looking more like a stock trader's desk. They have multiple iPads that are set up, that they have to then enter the data to the point of sale system. So none of those, some of the POS systems are difficult with opening themselves up to outside parties. I think Brett said it earlier, it would be really nice if some of these groups would talk to each other a little more effectively. There's a few aggregators that are making some headway in the marketplace on how to combine all of that delivery data into one single source. I haven't yet found a solution, but maybe someone here has that solution.
Opportunity.
But it's a challenging, and it's something that we need to embrace because delivery accounts for slightly less than 20% of the business of the meatball shop, which is phenomenal. We're not complaining at all, but it's a piece of our business that we need to take very seriously. And when we evaluate technology products and partners to work with on those delivery platforms, it's something that we spend a lot of time and effort vetting before we move forward.
Right, okay. Brett, when you're thinking of just back of the house, sort of similar to this, but not in a delivery format, the efficiencies of the back of the house, is there any technologies that are making their lives easier? Because obviously the goal is to keep them back there doing what they need to be doing.
Well, user adoption in the back of the house is a much more difficult issue for us in particular, not just people who have language barriers, but also the sort of cook mentality is very different. And while we have two chefs de cuisine, which is a bit odd, but one who focuses primarily on the food side and one who's more on the management side. So getting them to adopt, just getting them to sign into a Vero is like a job.
Brett, one of my chefs posted a Vero notes in the logbook the other night. We were like, we got a party.
I know, but I think that's all changing as we see younger people and new generation. The restaurant business is definitely in a rapid change mode, and I think that some of those things will evolve. And one of the things that I would love to implement is having a window into the front of the house in the kitchen, which I know is available, so that there's the chef on the line can see what's happening in the dining room, at the table, at the door, and have a feeling for what's going on. Because I think that'll be beneficial from a communication perspective, from an overall cultural perspective, as well as from a guest experience. There is a missing link between the chef sometimes and the table when the food goes out. And they care very, particularly, I'm sure from the meatball shop to fine dining, the guy that's cooking or the girl that's cooking is very concerned with the quality, which is, I think, a great change in the culinary scene over the last 10 to 15 years. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I guess, John, same thing. Nobu, are you seeing any of
Well,
that?
There's some back of the house things we've done just to keep the chef cooking and managing his crew. And part of that is once we just scan the invoices. Now they just scan. They can approve and scan. We have inventory that's we are just implementing now, and it would take 18 hours to inventory, and we've done it now in about 3. And that's with the little guns that scanning. Yeah, it's and so we do those types of things. We're set up to use video televisions in the kitchen, but we haven't done that. I don't think we will, at least not for a while. But that's, you know, those types of things just decrease the time that they have to spend doing things other than what they're really there for, which is.
So we suffer, I implemented, I'm a technology person, I like technology, I think it helps, you know, it brings efficiencies, et cetera. So, 5, 7, 8 years ago, I tried to implement an inventory system in the back of the house, and I don't think the software was where it needed to be.
Right.
So I failed with this implementation miserably, and so then we had to take it out. But I created a lot of bad will,
Yeah.
so I've been reluctant to go back. Yes, technology scar tissue, beautiful. It happens.
Yeah.
I think the key to technology, I think that this is certainly not the final answer, but it has to be ancillary to the, I guess every style of restaurant, caliber of restaurant, from QSR to grab and go to fine dining and everywhere in between, there's an art and a science that needs to be balanced, and you can be bogged down by data overload, and at the end of the day, at least in my business, the people are the biggest asset. I think that's the case with most of our businesses and most of the people in this room. And so a lot of technology is focused on how we can better improve this experience or get these reporting or get inventory done faster, which is great and gets the managers and the team members back out on the floor. I think there's an tremendous opportunity to institute technology that is for the team members. So, you know, what that looks like fully, I don't know. There's some people that are playing with it in the space, like rating your shift at the end of the shift. Being, you know, having it's a younger generation that are the hourly employees in the restaurant for the most part, and if we're not applying some technology to their jobs every day as well, it's not just reporting and inventory and software and back-end system, right? There has to be some proponent of technology that's forward-facing to our employees. But the truth is that we're in the people business, and we're in the service business and the hospitality business, and to me, data is very important, and I will continue to embrace it. I'm a huge fan of data, but we need to spend time taking care of the guests, taking care of our employees. And so any way that technology can help me do that, that's people that I want to talk to.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that on that front, you know, the biggest tool we have at the moment on helping the servicing the guests is the reservation system. And you know, I think this new wave of systems and then even OpenTable's reaction to that is going to help that cause, I mean, ideally, because the more that we can be direct with the consumer, the better off, or the better we can make our product, and the easier it is to build our business if we can have a direct link to the consumer rather than being through, you know, a rating system or a blog site.
Well, that's an interesting segue when we're sort of thinking of now going forward in the future and what's coming. We've already sort of heard, you know, artificial intelligence, robotics. Where does that lie in the picture, and what's the fine balance between not taking the hospitality out of hospitality and letting that completely take over? So I thought maybe Luke, you might want to shed some light on that.
Sure. I'm not a big believer of artificial intelligence in our business, and that means in the restaurant business and software. If you try and take the instinct and the humanity out of especially our operators, you're going to remove the essence of what makes them successful, right? So if the systems we implement, the technology we put in, has to be better at delivering information, making it more efficient for our managers to allow their instincts and their training to make the right decisions. Don't tell them what their sales will be, because you remove a layer of accountability and a kind of tactile relationship with what's happening in the business. We give them all the information they need to make a more informed sales forecast, for example. Don't tell them what the schedule should be, but give them all the parameters for them to make a much more efficient schedule of response to our customers. So I like the concept of assisted intelligence more than artificial intelligence. And especially for the people in this room, I think there may be some discussion of the sort of very, very systemic QSR models. Perhaps you can have a little more automation in business decisions there, but certainly not for people in this room. But the concept of robotics is interesting as well, beyond sort of artificial intelligence. I think there's an idea that in the not too distant future, robots are going to start running our kitchens, and that Flippy, the burger making robot, will expand into other parts of the kitchen. My first business was the first Burger King franchise in Australia about 20 years ago, and we had an automated fry slicing machine. And I can't think of any piece of technology that's been actually more effective in terms of automating a function in the kitchen than slicing the fries. It worked very, very well. But it's, as I've got to understand the world of all things computers and the intersection of our businesses, it's pretty clear. It's kind of paradoxical, right? That computers are very good at processing huge amounts of information, but they're not actually very good at automating basic tasks. So through robots can't sort of step in and do the kind of agile tasks, the very sort of manual tasks that we have in our kitchens. And they're very good at doing complex things well and very bad at doing simple things well. So I'm not a big believer in sort of large-scale robotics in kitchens at the moment, that's for sure.
Okay. I have one more question for the panel, and then we'll leave a little bit of time for questions. So kind of taking off from where we're headed in the future, what would be, and we'll just kind of run down the line here, what would be the one piece either you see is in the future of technology that we're missing now, or if you had your wish list, what would it be that you think you need the solution for?
I guess it would be, why can't everyone just get along? Like, wouldn't it be so great if these two talk to each other?
Integration?
It won't. POS systems talking with reservation software, delivery platforms talking with KDS systems in the kitchen, scheduling talking with a payroll. It's just integration for me. It's can't we all just get along?
That's exactly the thing. Nothing talks. Nothing integrates. We're on some key things. We're paying for it. So we want some things. We're doing it, and that's the only way. And it must talk. It must talk. They have one version of the truth, and we're working to do that right now. We have 3 or 4 projects going on now where we're integrating all of our different systems together.
And Harry's gonna take over the world, is that what we're gonna say, Luke?
I think
Is that a future?
I actually got pretty sick of talking to different companies that we theoretically should partner with and integrate with, and we made a decision 2.5 years ago to say, well, we're going to build everything we can. And we're going to build it 4 restaurants in one place. And we found great partners. ADP, for example, one of the few payroll companies that have a proper API. If you want to have integrations, you can't do it through file exchange. It has to have a powerful API platform so that data can flow. And there's a lot of the legacy vendors to our industry, they don't have the functionality, and they kind of think of themselves as kind of landlords of data. And we come against that every day. We're also seeing that change very quickly because there are a lot of options against these legacy systems. So rather than fighting the fight, we plowed through and hired 60 engineers and counting and built a lot of things in one place. But I think if I was wearing my operator's hat, the one thing I would want in a platform is something that helps me navigate what the next 18 to 24 months are going to bring from a wage cost point of view. It's my own business here. I'm looking at probably an 80% reduction in my operating profit with the wage increases we're seeing from 2 years ago to 2 years from now. And there has to be a unified approach to trying to manage everything that contributes to that labor cost line.
Okay. All right. And
I had to
Brian,
bring that up. Well, I certainly, I completely agree with integration. I mean, I was sitting here thinking, if I could just take what, because I'm the nerve center of Gotham, so everything comes to me and I know everything. But if I could just put a chip in my brain and give a remote control to my employees, that would be what I would like. But that obviously is not going to be happening. So integration, I think, is probably key. But I'm going to go back to being able. I want the next tool for me to be something that I can talk to the consumer. Which is what I said before, but I think that having direct communication with our guests before they get there, while they're there if they like, but also once they're gone, and we can extend. And I guess I'm speaking probably more from a fine dining perspective, but I think it applies to quick serve as well. As these concepts continue to evolve, that consumer touch in extending the experience is, I think, very, very powerful. And as an operator, we want that. We want that consumer back. We have to have it back over and over again to succeed, to survive, particularly with the increase in payroll.
Yeah, I don't have much to add more than what's already been said, but mobile devices are, when you think about what's coming in the future, this is the future, this is here. I mean, this is, everything will be done. This is my kids' computer, they're on this in a ridiculous amount. It's like a constant battle in my home, trying to tell them not to use this. But maybe I shouldn't be saying that, I don't know, maybe but responsible use of this for all of you who have kids.
Your wife just texted me.
My wife. So this is the future for sure. Integration, which was mentioned, also key. We're working on a complete API. Any partner, any tech that wants any of the data that's stored in Restaurant 365 should have complete and utter access to it to use it in whatever system that they want to. That's just open kimono. There you go, take it. And then the last comment was on the first panel. It was a comment made about give me what the ideal should be. Don't make it for me, but give me what a guideline that I can go off of. And that's also something we're working on. We want you to. This is my concept. This is the guest experience I want them to have. This is the food I'm delivering. Put in all those parameters. Forecast my sales based on crazy whatever stipulations I want. Give me my sales and my labor, my job. Just give me my guideline. Let my people start with that every day. So that's if we can give that to people at a ridiculously low cost and build as much of it as we possibly can. I'm like Harry, we're going to build. That's why our system has so many different modules. We want it all in one, so it's just all in real time. And so that's restaurant in a box.
All
It would
right.
also be good if Connie can make meatballs. Perhaps didn't hear that.
Okay. Are we getting the hook? No questions allowed? They have to ask it later, so they're going to hunt you guys down. So we got the hook from Andrew. So anyways, thank you very much for joining us up here. Appreciate it.